handle. I even have UU matches.
There we go.
That will bring us into this moment. And let me get that started. Oh, we'll do this virtually. Welcome everyone for our monthly implementation call. And we'll be talking about what's coming up in December. I'm Corinna Whiteaker-Lewis. I am the DRE at San Gabriel UU Fellowship in Georgetown, Texas, which is about 30 minutes north of Austin. San Gabriel is a young congregation of 11 years old. We have about 85 to 90 people in attendance on a Sunday and about from 10 to 20 children in our RE program on a Sunday. As you can see, I am not Katie Covey. Katie asked me to fill in for her because she's off gallivanting at a conference having a fabulous time. Scott is with us, yes, just to pitch in and help as we need him. And you are, of course, welcome to contribute as much as you want, Scott. But he also has other things he's going to be doing.
Yes, I was going to say, I think I'll use this as a chance just to say hi and bye. I'm going to put myself on mute and video, and today's my administrative day. So I'm going to work on things I've been putting off for a month while you all do creative stuff. So, but just thank you. It's good to see your faces. And I'll say have fun.
All right. See you later, Scott. And mystery for December, the practice of embracing life with humility and awe was the subtitle. I hope you've had an opportunity to look through the packet a little bit. We will break our discussion down into like 3 different parts. We'll have a bit of a guided conversation through talking about challenges we may be having in implementing the packet. This is called the implementation lab. So we're talking about how will we bring forth the themes and lessons as Katie has described them in the packet. How will we implement that in our congregation in December? So what are the challenges that you're seeing right now in doing that? What opportunities do you have that you would like to hold and share with us? And then we'll wrap up with some, learning that we've come to together here as a result of talking everything through. And it is being recorded. And Scott just reminded me that somewhere between 10 and 20 views after we get done with this call. So even though we have 4 of us here today, it'll certainly be a meaningful discussion that will help others as well. So we have 4 of us, and that gives us plenty of time to just go through. I have a clock. I'll try and stay, keep an eye on when we need to move on. But I will mention that the packet talks about mystery in these several different ways. And Katie broke it down a little bit into let the mystery be, which is a practice of gratitude and appreciation. Mystery all around us, practice of seeing the miracles in the ordinary. The mystery of us, the practice of seeing the divine in others and ourselves. And then she also included some materials for how we would do a multi-generational service around Christmas or Solstice. So I will just kind of go in order and call on people as you are on my screen. And of course, you're always welcome to pass if you would just like to listen in. But if anyone has any challenges that they'd like to share when thinking about December and how you're going to implement the packet, now is the time. So Amber, do you mind getting started with that? Have anything for us?
I don't really have too much to share at this point, so I think I probably better pass.
All right. And I see that we have had 2 people join us. Jessica and Kate are also on the call now. Liza, I've learned that it's pronounced Liza. Liza, do you have anything that is really sticking out for you from the packet this month? You're muted. We can't hear you. You're muted, so we couldn't hear that, but it sounds like you were saying maybe you would pass. You hadn't had a chance to talk. Hadn't looked in it.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I haven't actually had a chance, I'm sorry, to look through the packet like I thought I would before this session. So just thought I would pop on. I've never participated in the implementation discussion before. I'll just glean what I can glean.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Let's see. Ryan, do you have anything you want to share? I know that you said this would be the first time implementing.
Yeah, hey everybody. So yeah, this is the first time I've been in a discussion like this, and I'm just looking at the packet actually right now for the first time. And I just want to say that I'm very interested in hearing about low practice or no practice Christmas pageant ideas. And so I hope we have time to talk about that today, because that's definitely a need, to put it mildly. I'm finding with our congregation that the parents are very, very busy and non-committal right now. And so I want to have a fun and, joyous process, as well as something that's delightful to watch on Christmas Eve for everyone, in low stress as possible. So that's where I'm coming from with that.
Yep. I hear you. I totally know it. And we will definitely make note that that's something that we can share in the opportunities portion. Hi, Kate. Do you have anything that you're thinking about as challenging coming up in December?
I think time is always challenging in December, and trying to balance all the things that usually happen, like, Music Sunday and the pageant and all those things, and still trying to integrate themes along with those. Though I think mystery is a great theme for the month. I think it's, that sense of wonder this time of year really lends itself to that mystery and that bigger piece. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm also, I have to say I'm mostly a lurker. I like to listen to all of the other ideas. But if you need pageant ideas, we do Pageant Out of the Box, and it's so much fun. It's chaos, but it's a lot of fun. So that's me.
Cool. Thank you, Kate. Jessica, do you have anything you'd like to share about things that might be challenging coming up in this month of December?
I think similar things to what others have said, that it feels like we don't really actually have that many Sundays in December because of funky things in our schedule. So I love the idea of mystery. It also feels like there's so many different aspects of it, and having it feel meaningful to the kids feels like something I'm excited to try to figure out. And then we don't do a Christmas pageant, although our multi-gen falls on the 23rd. So I think we're going to do it around have the focus be around Solstice. So any ideas about that would be awesome. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Jessica. I can say for myself, it's a 5 Sunday month, which always throws me off. I don't like it. I would love for it to just always be those 4 Sundays. Also, attendance is very kind of wacky. People travel. There's some very high attendance days, and then some really low attendance ones. And how do I, plan for that? Those are things that concern me a little bit in the month. In terms of, and I also agree that when you have these large cultural things going on in the entire, greater context of our congregations, how do we maintain any kind of continuity or theme with a theme throughout that time? Although I do agree with all of you as well that mystery was a good one to kind of be a container for all those different things that might be happening. So I tend to think a little visually about that. And so for me, it was, I started thinking about stars a lot at this time. And so stars have been coming up for me quite a bit So any other kind of thoughts about what might be roadblocks or barriers to your December dreams? What you'd like to have happen in December? Little sticking points that might be troubling you? Well, let's just reflect for a minute on these few things. Just take a moment, and then we'll move into what the shared wisdom here can tell us about how to answer some of those challenges. So let's see, we've got Christmas pageants and perhaps solstice celebrations that we want to have a minimal amount of impact with our families. Managing the time around these holidays, keeping things meaningful for our children, and staying somewhat grounded during a very hectic time. Just reflect on that for a few moments. Katie said, play these Tibetan bowls. As a way to bring us out of that time. That was kind of cool. Okay, so hearing those concerns, does anybody have some suggestions for those, how we can move past or resolve some of those issues that we are anticipating? And I'll just leave that up to people to contribute. I won't call. Is there anybody who has a suggestion about low commitment Christmas pageants, no rehearsal, out of the box Christmas pageants?
I can chime in a little bit. I feel lucky in that I inherited a really nice no rehearsal Christmas pageant tradition here in Montpelier. Before I started, I think there'd been 3 or 4 years of the no rehearsal, and now it's just become a total highlight for all ages in the congregation every year. I'd say we have as many, if not more, adults dressing up in costume and participating in the story as kids. And we just have a script that sort of grounds us. Each year we revisit it and add some little parts or take out parts. Last year, I really liked adding a part to give the kids, everybody, even myself, a sense of how much distance Mary and Joseph actually traveled to get to Bethlehem, and it was like from our city to Burlington, Vermont and back. And so everyone, in our congregation knows, like, wow, that's a good sized drive for a day shopping trip and back. And people really liked that. But in general, we invite people to dress up as either wise Unitarian Universalists as the Magi, as shepherds, or as angels, those 3 parts. And we also have a big bin of extra accessories and costumes for folks who don't come dressed up but want to jump in the spirit of fun. and participate. We have a bunch of gold pipe cleaner halos for the angels, and just a bunch of white scarves, a few fairy wings, things like that. For the magi, it's just lots of bling.
Yeah.
Shepherds, just, you know, sheets that can get wrapped as tunics. And what we have done the last couple years that I think helps a lot is I have at like a point person for each group of people, like a team captain. And this is a great role for high schoolers or returning like bridgers, you know, who are home for their Christmas vacation and their whole childhood maybe were part of some kind of pageant. Anyway, so at different points in the skit, or no, I guess in the beginning, there's a time where I narrate and I say, so if you think you would like to be an angel, or if you are dressed as an angel, go to the back left of the sanctuary where, you know, Beth is waving her arms. And so I tell people where in the sanctuary to meet their sort of team captain. And then we just have maybe like a little bit of piano music playing for 3 or 4 minutes as people get dolled up. And then we launch the story. And I guess one way that everyone participates is they make the starlight, because there are a few points where we refer to the stars in the sky, and everyone just does this, the whole congregation.
Oh, that's really nice. That's nice.
And yeah.
So, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think we line up, we have we have the, of course, the Holy Family is lined up ahead of time. We do contact a family. If we have a family with a kid who's like 1 year old or younger, we usually invite them to be the Holy Family. But again, even they don't need to do much rehearsal. We have a special packet of clothes. We usually just say, they'll be waiting in this spot when you arrive. And we ask someone to be the angel role. There's just a time when they pop out. They don't say anything, but usually I just have that lined up ahead of time. So that's it.
Yep. That all sounds very familiar. Does anybody else have? Yeah, Kate, did you want to?
Yeah, we do ours just a little bit differently. I love the idea of asking people to dress up to come, but we don't do that because usually we get so many outcomers, like people that don't, we do it Christmas Eve. And so there are so many people from the community that it just, you know, wouldn't work out that way. So what we do is we tell the story, and we tell and there's carols sung, and then you tell a little bit of the story and ask for people to come back. And we have costumes. So we put costumes over people's heads. Like, so if you want to be a shepherd, like we'll call on 5 or 6 people and do that and have them get dressed as shepherds. And if you want to be an angel, and then there'll be a carol. And then, so we kind of intersperse it that way. And the costumes that I use are really simple. It's like a rectangle of fabric, and in the middle of it, there's a head, like a slit that can go over your head. So we keep it really simple. So like white for the angels and something burlap looking for the shepherds. And then at the end, because everybody really wants a part and we can't pick everybody, I've bought like these star wands from Oriental Trader. And then we just hand it out to everyone to be the starlight at the very end. So that, because I found with the kids, they really want a prop. That's the thing. Like they want something that either is to put on or to hold. And so that kind of solved the bottom line for us, because so many kids were coming on Christmas Eve to do this, and we can't call on all of them. And so we wanted to have something for them to do that was just, they had something in their hand and they felt like they did something in the play. So that's kind of how ours goes. I have a script if anybody wants to look it over and see what that's like. I'm happy to share it.
Yeah, you put your emails in the chat box, and if you wanted to have some things sent to you. Anybody else want to contribute to no rehearsal pageant ideas? I have a few. Mine is very similar to what Kate and Liza have already described. I source a bale of hay like a week in advance and have that near that's like our only prop. It's funny, our church was purchased about 4 or 5 years ago, and we bought it it was a church. It was a free evangelical church before we bought it, and they left us. This is like the thing that was the most helpful thing that they left behind was they had some outfits for a Christmas pageant, and for strangely enough, one plywood camel. So he's in the background. And also the people I identify in advance who the family is going to be, and the lead angel, and the head angel, and maybe the innkeeper. I'm not sure. But the narration is by me, and we intersperse the sections of the story with the Christmas carols. So when there is the Magi are arriving, the wise people are coming forward, we will then sing "We Three Kings of the Orient Are." So it kind of breaks it up a little bit. Kids, we kind of get everybody into costume before service. We just have a table, near the entrance, where we just have them all in Ziploc bags, and people can just choose what they want. And it is this very simple thing of like a piece of burlap or a sheet with a hole in it, or, whatever. And there are some of the ones that I inherited, which I think were Oriental trading ones, were some animal costumes. But we also encourage people, if they have something from home that they want to wear, they want to dress up, they can bring that. But almost every child who wants to participate can, because anybody can be an angel, a donkey, a sheep, whatever the different animals are. They can, and they get to be on the family comes forward and eventually sits on the bale of hay, and the animals and the angels are all surrounding them. So yeah, but there's no prep or anything from families. Because there's no real speaking roles. Everybody just kind of acts it out as I narrate it. So yeah, and then there's like a cookie thing. And we don't do it on the 23rd. We'll be doing it the week before on the 16th. And that kind of helps a little bit too with families who might travel. So we've gotten good attendance having it and our 23rd service on the 23rd will be about Charles Dickens and the UU connection with the Christmas Carol and that kind of thing. So, yeah. There is a script in the packet that Katie links to. And there is something for Solstice as well.
Right.
And if you were to ask on the DRE, the National DRE Facebook page, I'm sure there's some in the files there too, and within Soul Matters Facebook page also. So there's lots of them floating around, and lots of people have different takes on them. And that is a very, it's a lovely all ages service. It's a really great way to bring people together during holiday time. Any other offerings around Christmas pageants?
I really like that idea of offering it further out from the travel time, because we have some families who just say, we've never participated in the rehearsal Christmas pageant because we're always at Grandma and Grandpa's by that time. So that's a really inclusive idea. I guess this is our first year switching to 2 services, and it's such a cherished tradition, and people, I don't know, we're just offering it at the later service, just thinking people might feel like it's sort of weird to know another group participated in it. Anyway, I don't know if any of you have 2 services and if you do it at both, or.
I only have the one. I know that at my previous congregation, where I was a member for a long time, they did the pageant at a separate time, and then they would have candlelight service on the 24th. Mm-hmm. And they just didn't want those. They didn't want one to supplant the other. So that was their solution, was to do it earlier so that it wouldn't take away a much longer tradition of that candlelight Christmas Eve service.
Yeah, I think ours was always sort of late afternoon. On Christmas Eve was the no rehearsal Christmas pageant, and then a candlelight service, much quieter, was at 6:30. Now we just do it on the Sunday before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say we regularly have more people in the pageant than actually in the pews. I think last year we probably had maybe like 30 sheep and like 40 shepherds.
And it's really fun when what you get when you tell them, you can tell people they can come in costume if they want to. I mean, we've had Batman at the manger.
Yeah, exactly. We had a killer whale. We had a killer whale at the manger last year, and one of the Magi's we thought it was very Vermont. The shepherds had a hockey stick as their shepherd's crook. So that's a fun element too.
To bring the story, I think, into more reflection for the congregation, right? Because then it's them doing it, and they see themselves in this story, which is a universal story. And so, and Katie talks about this in the packet as well, is that, you know, we often during this time we focus on how each night a child is born is a holy night, and and there's a little bit, she also mentions, there's a quote she has from a third grader that told her that a myth, defined what a myth is for her. It's like a story that's not necessarily true on the outside, but is true on the inside. That was really beautiful. And so, yeah, so the more participatory, I mean, I'm all about that just in general. As from an education perspective, I think this becomes more meaningful to people when they contribute in this way. And not every service is like this, right? You don't get that chance all this very often, or not regularly anyway. So, and I see that Amber has very kindly put some links in our chat to different types of it's a rehearsal one, but it's good to see. Yeah, some people really get into it and have whole things that they have going on. So that's fun. And there are a lot of people who really enjoy putting on a performance in that way as a gift to the congregation too. So that's something to be mindful of too, that if you have that energy in your congregation, you should really run with that. But yeah, I think Ryan's situation is probably a little more, at least that's more normal to me, that it's like pulling teeth to get people to do things. So,
well, but also because there's a little bit of tension there, because the tradition has been that it has been more of a performance, a play, scripted play, 6 or so rehearsals beforehand. That's what was done last year. I'm new to this position. I'm new to this congregation. And I was told, by some people, you should get the Christmas play figured out in August or September if you can, so you can start da-da-da-da. And I was like, yeah, no. I'm trying to do startup right now. So I have procrastinated, but I want to shift the culture to make it easier for parents. But there is that tension that I might not be able to just throw burlap sacks at people as they walk through the door. So I might have to find something in between.
Yeah. Well, I encourage you in embracing that's the moment of change. You can get away with some things. And I think you can also say, I was on a call with all these other religious educators and they do X. And so you don't feel like you're out there on your own proposing this, that this is something that's been adopted with much success.
This is great. This is all very heartening for me. So
yeah, I'll give you a little bit of backup support. That last year when we offered it, there was a young adult who grew up in the congregation back when they did a mini rehearsal Christmas pageant. And she just said, I remember the ones that we did when I was a kid, and all I remember was how stressed and how nervous I was. And there's zero stress or nervousness with this. And that made me so sad that that was her memory, and so happy that we do it differently now. And it feels so much more welcoming. One element that you might want, like, Brian, since your congregation is used to something a little bit more polished, is I do like, because we have such huge numbers show up, like if you have 40 sheep, you sort of have to block out where are the sheep all going to be, you know. And so my team captains, you know, are really, really on it people, and they arrive about an hour before the service, and they go through their bins that we have for people who don't arrive with costumes and sort of lay those out so it's pretty quick to help find, you know, something for a 6-foot tall magi or a 3-foot tall magi. They sort of order them in size. And also we just walk through I narrate it, and we walk through where they're going to lead their group so that we're not just all in the same spot. And that's been really helpful. Just a real rough blocking out of the front of the sanctuary.
Yeah. Oh, those are great. That's great ideas. Yeah, I definitely sit down with a volunteer and go through the box of costumes and rearrange everything. And then I have folks who have volunteered to work that entry table and pass the stuff out and get it all out to people. And I do think it kind of helps that you have the narration going on so that there is a thread. It's not chaos, it's just controlled chaos. And speaking of controlled chaos, that's a great segue. So the next concern that was shared was just in general about time management during holidays, and how do we kind of manage expectations around that, and how do we realistically approach this very busy time, I guess. Does anybody have any hints or tips or tricks about that, about how to not get completely overwhelmed with the number of different moving pieces that there are in a in a holiday time?
Well, we just actually eliminated the family service on Christmas Eve, maybe partly because Sunday the 23rd is so close to Christmas Eve anyway. We just thought families might be really relieved to not have to go out on Christmas Eve afternoon. So, I mean, ones that want to can go to the candlelight one at 6:30. That feels nice to just simplify. And we have this woman in our community who offers these wonderful sacred sings at the Friends Meeting House nearby, and she offers them on the solstices and equinox. So we're just inviting her to do an evening solstice service that's mainly just singing in our sanctuary with the lights turned down low. So that eliminates creating a whole nother. Last year we just did a whole evening worship service that we created, but sort of hiring out with someone who's really gifted local talent to help with that. And we did that for the summer solstice, and it was really well received. We had about 40 people come for an evening sing, so we're excited about that.
That's a great way to kind of pawn things off into smaller pieces and make them more simple and not as involved. I think that, and it's interesting. I think in some ways we worry that we are failing people when we don't have all these things going on. But at the same time, and this especially fits in with this theme, right, is that when we model this kind of behavior that we do want to pare back a little bit, I think that gives people permission, right, to say it's okay not to do everything. And so, and that there's there's a gift in not doing everything, and that it's better self-care, and it's better, it's a better focus for a holiday time, I think, in a way, to be able to say, I'm going to do fewer things with more intention than a lot of things and spread myself very thin. And I think that in and of itself is a message that we want to offer, that is a form of ministry that we can offer that to our families, that we are leading in that respect. So time management, I think for me, is saying, we are going to do less in order to achieve more in that respect. And that it's not a failure to be doing less. It means that you have recognized boundaries, and you are hoping that gives other people, that empowers them to do the same. And that's ultimately the healthier, more authentic way to engage in the time that we have with one another, I would think. So there's some power that we can wield, I think, in that regard, by setting that example for people.
At FallCon, there was a great workshop where somebody talked about the power of no to say yes. And so saying no to some things so that it gives you the power to say yes to something else. And I really love that idea of, just having the power to say yes because you've said no to other things, because no can be really hard for me sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great exercise. I was there for that too. And yeah, that's a really wonderful reframing of it, because you could say, when you're saying no, it does feel like you are letting someone down, that it's negative, and that you are not there for a person. But at the same time, you're doing that not because you want to deny someone something. It's because you want to be more available ultimately. And so and when somebody sees you doing that, then they feel more able to do that for themselves. So yeah, that's a really wonderful way of looking at a hectic time and trying to manage it. Does anybody else have anything to add on that?
I feel pretty lucky actually hearing this, because we don't do any RE or childcare on the Sunday between Christmas and New Year's. So I'm just saying this because I don't know if anybody has any ability to do that too, but it just makes it a lot easier for my schedule. And then I think for parents too, to just feel like, just like Corinna is saying, like, you can take the time off and it's okay. We also don't do any RE during Christmas for the Christmas services either. And one other thing that I did last year that worked well, and I'm hoping it'll work this year, is that we did a big cookie making and card making thing before the craziness of December started. So this year it's actually on the 29th, the Thursday before, even before December starts. And we had a really good turnout, I think. I don't know what to attribute that to, but it was just a nice way to be together and just sort of take a breath before I think a lot of families get pretty crazy. So that was nice.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, Jessica. So that was like a family fun night where you invited people expressly for card making and cookie making, and it was before December kicked off, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Part of it just works out with our schedule because the kids are responsible for doing coffee hour on the first Sunday of December. So that's partly what we were getting ready for, but then it really just was a nice time to be together.
Yay.
And are the cards just for each person to take home to send out as they want, or was it for a certain group of people?
We did a holiday card fundraiser. So an artist who's a member of the congregation helped to come up with a simple design that the kids could then personalize. And then she took the responsibility of making duplicates of the cards that the kids had made. And we sold them during, and we'll do this again, we'll sell them during coffee hours. And then the kids get to decide how they want to donate the money. And the idea is the money is philanthropic. So they got to talk about the things they really care about and where they want to donate the money to. So it worked well last year, and hopefully it will work well again this year.
Oh yeah, no, that sounds Fabulous. I'm going to be thinking about that. I don't think I can do it this year, but I can always plan for the next. I will introduce the theme of Minute Mystery on the first Sunday of the month in a children's chapel, where we do one room schoolhouse for that, of all the children together. And then we do a service project of some sort directly after that. And ours is a card making activity for a particular population. We send them to the Gay Straight Alliance students group at the local high school. We send them cards, and we send cards to a homeless an organization that assists homeless folks. And so the kids, they get all the materials together and they do a bunch of cards and send those out. So that's their kind of service project for the month of December. And that will work in well with that first theme that Katie kind of identified within Mystery, that practice of gratitude.
Last year, our middle schoolers really enjoyed sending holiday cards through the prison ministry network.
Yes.
To think about, just being away from home for the holidays and away from your family, it really moved them, and that it felt like their minds were ready to step into that realm of like, these are not bad people, like these people deserve love at the holidays too. Yeah. I think there's so much black and white thinking about people in prison, and why, at first for a kid that hasn't really been exposed to that, it seems sort of strange that you would send a card to someone in prison.
Liza, do you think that might work out for like older elementary?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have, when we're doing classes, the kids are 2nd to 5th. And I'm wondering, I was just thinking about like 2nd grade's a little bit young, but they could probably process that and handle that. I think that would be a cool exposure for them.
Yeah, just to get into that gray area thinking. I'm trying to think of, we found a YouTube video, and I don't know, can't remember the specific content enough to know if it would be appropriate for younger than middle school, but basically it was 5 or 6 minutes of a man who was in prison, and just such a human way about him, feeling genuine remorse for what he did, and sort of just just opened the conversation.
That's really great.
See if I could dig that up, but it was there were specifics, Amber, around doing it. If you go to the Prison Ministry Network, I think that's what it's called, right? Like, I think you can't use markers for whatever reason. I don't know why. It was like you had to use pen. And maybe they weren't sealed, or they had to be sealed. I don't know. They just had a few specific requests. And I think there's a certain deadline when they'd like to get them by, so they have time enough to disperse them.
Yeah. I will also say I really like Jessica pointing out that she doesn't offer childcare during the holiday time, and then it's as a way to show the value of your childcare providers. And I mean, at least that's my interpretation of why they don't do that, but Jessica can chime in if it's different. But I also think you can also do very low, during those times, like I would expect that I would not have that many kids on the 23rd and the 30th necessarily. And so then you can do pajama party, or you can do like a movie kind of thing, or do hot chocolate, and just keep it very simple on those days, and not necessarily have a need for a lead teacher and an assistant and all these and all these other things going on. And you can be very casual Sunday, and low key for whoever does wind up being your volunteer, to and bring it into one room schoolhouse if you if you're of that size and can get away with having those children all together in one space. So yeah, and what's interesting is it helps to be intentional about that planning and communicate in advance that that's what it's going to be, because then that kind of sets the tone that people and shapes expectations about what's going to happen on that Sunday. And it doesn't feel like you're being reactionary. Oh, we've only got 4 kids. Let's just throw a video in. It's more like, no, we kind of feel like there's going to be less children here. And so our plan is we're going to have a fun, and you can come to church in your pajamas. Video it is that you think would be fun, and then it comes across the message to the congregation is oh, we're being proactive and we know what the situation is, and we are prepared for that. And it also gives people who maybe don't get a break as often as they would like a break. So yeah, that's
I have go ahead, Amber.
I do want to throw out, because our congregation is about 125 members, and we have, I don't know, 10 to 15 kids on any given Sunday showing up. But even with communicating, we've never had childcare, from what I understand, on that Sunday in between Christmas and New Year's. And we had a mom who was in transition and staying in shelters, who had 2 young boys, who was coming really regularly. And I don't know if she didn't get the message or she just didn't really have any other options. And so she came and had the boys, and one of our members ended up taking them over to the RE building because they were so disruptive in the service. It wasn't appropriate for them. And it was something that I wasn't really thinking about before that happened, but it also made me wonder if, maybe we should at least offer childcare, and whether that's, having somebody there that we're paying, or seeing if there are some volunteers that would do it, because chances are good there won't be any kids. But I also want to make sure that we're taking care of our families or visitors or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and I think when the structures are there, then that gives everyone a sense of confidence that their needs will be met, right? If you've already kind of thought it through in advance and been able to say, yeah, this is our contingency, these are the contingencies that we've planned for, then people are like, oh, it's under control, we know it's going to happen. So plan for what might feel like to be an outlier, but you never know. So it's better to have a contingency plan in your pocket than to be kind of unprepared. And at least that is my my kind of approach to things. And what's really interesting is the more you do that, then the more regular attendance you get. Because then people are like, oh, there'll be something there when I go there. So, well, we are getting close to the end of our time. Is there Katie has in her notes for me that we would share our takeaways. So we would sit for a moment and reflect on all the opportunities that we've shared. Attendance variations. I don't know if we talked directly about keeping things meaningful for the children. And I do think that is a thread that is throughout the packet and the approach that was taken with the theme this month. And there was, I don't know if anybody has anything to share about that, but when you look at the way it's kind of broken down into the practice of gratitude and appreciation, the practice of seeing the miracles in the ordinary, and the practice of recognizing the divine in others and ourselves, I do feel that those are all ways to keep this from being a consumer-oriented time to a contributing or great gratitude time. And does anybody have any thoughts they want to share about that, about how they might set up moments for children and our families regarding maintaining meaning during a time where popular culture often wants to direct us into into other areas?
For a solstice multi-gen a couple years ago, I came up with a body prayer that is sort of along the theme we've been talking about of slowing down. And I don't know, something about a body prayer, I think, helps us all get it in our bones a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And the kids really held on to this one. I could share it with you all if you want.
Yeah, we want a demonstration.
It tied in. I had a time for all ages that I co-led with a local pagan woman, and we focused on the darkness of solstice and the gifts the darkness brings, not so much as the return of the light, but really to celebrate the gifts of the darkness as a chance to slow down, a chance to really rest, and that doing those things helps us grow. And also we just talked about how children do a lot of their growing at night while they're sleeping, I guess. So we had those elements of it, and it goes like this. Stand up, but I don't think you'll see me if I stand up. So may the solstice slow us down, give us rest, and help us grow. And I would have them say it 3 times and then go into 3 times with movement and no words.
So can you say again what the first, you said, what was before solstice?
Sure. So you guys, may the solstice, you want to do it? Yeah. May the solstice slow us down, give us rest, and help us grow. And that movement's so beautiful if you do it in the sanctuary with everyone doing it together. I don't know where the little box is. I could write there's the chat. I can write it in the chat box.
Thank you. And this is being recorded. Woohoo! So you can come back and look at the link later if you really wanted to remember. You couldn't quite put it all together again. That was lovely. Liza, thank you so much. And I love it when we can do, and we have motions to different songs and things like
Uh-oh.
They've been practicing it, and they just say it brings another element to it. It's so nice to see that. Great. And I think Jessica had even mentioned something about solstice, and so that was like a 2-for-1 there. Keeping things meaningful for children and also talking a little bit further about solstice celebrations. Well, let me see if I can. Are there any other things before I extinguish our chalice that you would like to share?
I just wanted to throw out, because we're talking, it seems like so many people do a pageant and our congregation doesn't. And it's really okay. A lot of it is about expectations, but it's just a service that we do. We have kind of a liturgical experience at our church, in that our major holidays and multi-gen services are they're almost the same script from year to year. And it doesn't have to be like this huge production. So that I feel like that speaks to both like the stress of figuring out a pageant, but also like embodying that process of slowing down and being present during the holidays.
Yeah. And that can be such a big role for us to give people that permission.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that, Amber. I'm going to see if this is from our mystery packet from the worship resources packet. It says Fragments of Holiness, which is actually in the hymnal from Reverend Sarah York. Insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown. Thank you for all those gifts that you shared with us today. And I will stay on the call for anyone who would like to further discuss any of the things we had today, or if you have questions beyond this month's packet, I'm happy to chat with you. Ryan, if you have any particular questions about soul manners in general, I know this is your first time out, so I'm happy to stick around. And anybody else, but if Scott is listening in, I think it's time for us to say goodbye. So anybody I wish you a happy and great, gratitude-filled upcoming Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
All right, good luck, everyone. See you next time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Wonderful call. Thank you.
Thanks.
Do you pronounce your name Corinna or Corinna?
Yeah, Corinna.
Corinna, great.